We're back here in the Real Matrix. First half hour, we're talking about how election fraud happened in 2020. I don't know how you can argue the facts from this because it's what our law enforcement uses to catch criminals right now, and these people were doing things that certainly sound criminal, yet no one looked into it. Tell you what, I'm gonna play a clip now from one of these mules or one of these people that were doing this in Arizona. Her identity is blurred out, but she talks about what's happening, how it's happening, and let's play the clip right now.
What were you doing?
Receptionist.
So at some point, you were asked or sort of instructed, I guess, to start receiving people's ballots.
I was just instructed to go ahead and receive ballots from various people, females mostly, and on Friday they would come and pick up payment. I assumed it was payments for what they were doing.
So they would, during the week, they would bring them in at various times, and then you would pay them like all on a Friday. Is that kind of how it went?
Yes.
Interesting.
And then I would get a call to find out how many ballots were brought in and if they were already pre-filled out first. And she would come to the office, look at them, and then before she left, she would either take them herself, but other times she would ask me if I could drop them off at the library.
So what was the instruction?
Just to drop them off.
In the drop box?
In the drop box, the early ballots.
Can you give me an idea of how many you personally put in the box? Hundreds?
Could have been, yes.
And was there a reason she wanted you to go to that drop box as opposed to maybe City Hall or something?
There's no cameras. There's no cameras there. And she would want me to take it in the evening when it was dark also.
Do you think this is widespread in Yuma County or elsewhere?
I would say it is.
So do you think that people you know in San Luis, they believe that their vote matters?
I don't even think they know the meaning of what voting is.
Do you personally think that the elections in San Luis are free and fair?
No. They're fixed. They've been fixed. They already know, seriously, who is going to win the next election before it even happens.
How do you think this affects the community, especially the Hispanic community, because it seems like they're preying on minorities?
They're an easy target because most of the Hispanics that live in the town are not well educated as far as the law. They look at it mostly as, oh, she's trying to help us because we're older, because she's having someone come and pick it up at my house, because I don't drive. Most of them, maybe, I would say honestly, 90% of the elderlies that live in San Luis don't drive or have relatives that are willing to drive them to do this, to go to the voting polls. Back when I first moved into the city of San Luis, I did have somebody come and knock on my door and ask for my ballot. And it was somebody I knew and that I had known for many years since I was a child. And up to this day, that person does not talk to me because I said there was no way I was giving them my ballot.
What a brave woman to do this.
Totally.
I call it the Mexican mafia, seriously, because they work like that.
It seems like we need to do a better job of maybe educating folks or helping people understand that this stuff's not okay.
I offered a long time ago, but again, they told me, oh, don't do it because you're going to end up in the trash can in pieces.
What do you think it's going to take to get this trafficking to stop?
For people to get caught and to pay the price.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
What's going to stop it? People getting caught and paying the price. Have you heard of anyone being caught from 2020? Heard anyone paying the price? I've heard a couple instances where someone was, maybe arrested or this and that, or they're going to jail, or maybe for actually, I think they're on probation. I mean, that's not a hindrance in regards to all the money that's going around. People are willing to do stuff for money, and we're going to talk later in the show a little bit about how much money is involved, how these rich elites that are really behind the Biden administration, or let's say the next administration in the future, how much money is behind it. They want power, they want control, and they have the money to do this. And giving a few bucks for a ballot, that's like nothing. That's like chump change. Want to talk now about, we'll play the next clip. It shows a little bit about people in old folks' homes that their ballots are used without their knowledge. It's outrageous. Next clip.
Now, a former Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin named Gableman has done a preliminary report. He talks about the fact that there are approximately 90,000 people in Wisconsin who are in resident care facilities or nursing homes.
So she's basically not capable any longer of even remaining awake for more than a few minutes.
And so were you surprised that she voted in February 2021?
Absolutely.
But I was surprised to hear that she voted in the last presidential election.
Much to my surprise, she had voted for off and on for the last 10 years. I guess in my mind, I thought if you put your parent into a facility because they were incapacitated, they would not even be offered the vote.
They make you vote.
They make you vote here? And so how do they make you vote?
Because I didn't want to vote, and they told me I had to.
That is a real problem. Clearly it was a problem in Wisconsin 2020, but unfortunately that's a perennial problem in other states too. What happens is you have staff in those nursing homes. Sometimes they are activists politically. They get these individuals registered to vote, or if they're already registered to vote, they will request absentee ballots in their name, sometimes forging their signatures, and then filling out the ballots for them.
So that's just absentee ballots for old folks in these convalescent homes. A lot of people. I think the number they said just in Milwaukee, 90,000 older folks who probably aren't voting, don't care to vote. And these people who work with them can request a ballot, fill it out for them, send it in. How do you know? How do you know? Again, you could sit here and argue and say, well, that's not happening to a great extent. I don't know what the extent is, but if you argue that it can't happen and isn't happening, I think we'll have an argument. I think I will stand confidently on the side that there's shenanigans going on, probably from either side. Again, we as Americans who want our voice to count doesn't. And they've even made the point. The Arizona mule from the last clip, they're fixed. You're not elected, you're selected. And we don't really have a voice or choice. And why don't we know about this more? Well, because the media, as I've said, show after show after show, they're controlled. It's propaganda. You know, when Trump came out and said fake media, there's no lie. Well, it's not fake. It is misinformation propaganda. And through the 2020 election, if you don't remember, and I'll slow the clips, they said it was the most wonderful, safe election in the history of elections. And what you're seeing right here, in a brief snippet, isn't even close. Next clip. Show our criminal media.
Polls now closed in half the country, and we are getting some interesting results coming in from those battleground states.
If you're a Republican, you say, wow. If you're a Democrat, you say, uh-oh.
You see, Donald Trump is now starting to widen his lead. President Trump now with 54% of the vote.
The president right now has the lead in the Keystone State.
We're going to have a great night, and we're going to have, much more importantly, we're going to have a great 4 years.
The 2020 election haunts the American mind.
Here's where it gets really bizarre. At Fulton County, most populous county, it is Atlanta. They just stopped counting.
Nevada, meanwhile, has stopped counting votes.
They've all stopped counting for the night?
All right, welcome back. This is CNN special live coverage, 10:31 a.m. on the East Coast. Why am I giving you the time? Well, if you managed to sleep last night, things changed. You may have gone to bed thinking this election was headed one way, and then you woke up and you saw things were different.
Also overnight, Joe Biden pulled ahead in the state of Georgia.
Joe Biden takes the lead in Pennsylvania.
Okay, we have an announcement to make.
Joe Biden has run for president 3 times, and the 3rd time has turned out to be the charm.
One side insists it was the most secure election in U.S. history.
Let me begin with one immutable fact. The 2020 election was the most secure election in American history.
It was the cleanest election, the safest election, the most secure election ever run.
And make no mistake, there has been no evidence of any significant widespread voter fraud.
Let me say it again.
The 2020 election was the most secure
election in American history.
Period.
This same side accuses anyone who disagrees with them of perpetrating a
big lie or the big delusion. The big lie keeps getting repeated.
The big lie is just that, a big lie.
And despite a relentless media barrage, the other side remains convinced there was widespread election fraud.
What I saw was not a secure and transparent election.
Poll watchers claim the Travis County Clerk's Office is locking them out.
Last night, there was a major software glitch that actually delayed the counting of all of the ballots.
I look at election fraud, and I want to look at secretaries of state who illegally changed the voter laws without the permission of their state legislature.
There have been numerous attempts to prove election fraud.
Devan dropping off ballots in the early morning hours of November 4th, 8 hours past the deadline.
She said her mother was in a nursing home and did not have the mental capacity to vote.
We've obtained video tonight that shows a man dropping several ballots into a drop box.
Scottsdale woman pleads guilty to casting a ballot in her dead mother's name.
Shows a man buying a registration form for an absentee ballot from a voter, giving him, quote, pocket money, unquote, of $200.
Yet courts have refused to consider these cases on the merits.
The Supreme Court rejecting an effort by Republicans to reverse President-elect Joe Biden's win in Pennsylvania.
The Supreme Court has rejected the Texas-led effort to toss out election results in 4 key states.
Even some Republicans dismiss the idea of systematic fraud and call for us to move on.
Fraud did not play a role in the outcome of the election.
The election was fair as we've seen. We simply did not win the election as Republicans for the presidency.
Rather than reject what happened on the 6th, reject the lies about the election, and make clear that a president who engaged in those activities can never be president again.
But we can't move on unless we know the truth. Many other issues arise out of the 2020 election. Did the January 6th protesters go to D.C. to mount an insurrection? It wasn't an insurrection, it was a primal scream.
To protect the Constitution of the United States against enemies foreign and domestic!
They wanted their elected leaders to adjudicate the claims of election fraud. The left's claim that this was the most secure election is also the foundation for the widespread censorship on social media of the so-called big lie.
This morning, President Trump waking up without his favorite megaphone.
You will never again see a tweet from President Trump.
But is it a big lie? Is it a lie at all?
You know, you saw a lot of information there. The media, propaganda. The scare tactic to say if you consider that there was irregularities in this election, that you're crazy, you're wrong. This is most clean, the best, the most safe. Nonsense. And early on, you saw how the media treats elections like it's some football game. Like, oh, someone just scored late, a long touchdown pass. It doesn't work that way. Just give us the news. And generally, when numbers are coming in, you can kind of predict where numbers are coming in from in regards to counties. There's a history there, and if there's irregularities, you can see them. The irregularities of them stopping counting, people coming in with ballots well after the election was over. I mean, if at the very least, if you say, well, I'm not sure, well, wouldn't you say something should be looked into? Something should be done about it? We'll get to that a little bit later. But when you say, how can someone fix an election? That's expensive. Well, let's talk about the money and how much money is out there. Next clip.
Really, that empty into the gulf of elections. The hard dollars to write a check to a candidate. The second you hear soft money or dark money. And then there's a third river that people tend to neglect, but Capital Research Center has studied intently, and that is the 501c3 nonprofit money. The kind of charity that you get to take a tax deduction for. That river is enormous. In the 2018 cycle, about $21 billion.
Now, what do the IRS regulations say about the involvement of these nonprofits?
By law, these nonprofit charities are forbidden to directly intervene in elections in any way or to help a particular party or candidate. The IRS is emphatic that you cannot intend or even have the effect of helping one party or candidate over the other.
Now, let's talk about some of the key elements of this particular network that we're focusing on. We have drop boxes, and those drop boxes are, most people would think, funded entirely by the states. In other words, the drop boxes in Georgia are funded by the state of Georgia, but that's not entirely the case, is it?
In the 2020 election, there was an unprecedented hundreds of millions of private dollars going into government election offices. The $470 million or so dollars were sent by Mark Zuckerberg and his wife.
We did our part to secure the integrity of the election.
There were a few other places that put in much smaller amounts. One entity that put in $25 million was, again, a nonprofit that's part of the Arabella Advisors, which as a total empire in 2020 took in $1.7 billion.
Is there any evidence that this operation had a partisan thrust or a partisan character?
As we all know, big money rarely comes without strings attached. One of the big ones is lots and lots of drop boxes. Also, lots and lots of vote by mail. To get your nice big checks, you had to do things like have drop boxes, encourage vote by mail, have ads in foreign languages, all kinds of things that little by little are nudging the turnout for one particular political party. In addition to the $470 or so million that went into the Zuckbuck operation, you also had in 2020 a $120 million project, very secretive, called the Voter Registration Project. The $120 million, it came from Soros's foundation, it came from Visa's foundation, it came from Warren Buffett's foundation, it came from unions like the SEIU. The Voter Registration Project has as its goal increasing in the 8 target states over 2 million voters who are overwhelmingly expected to vote for the Democratic Party.
And so the states that we're talking about here, Arizona?
Yes.
Georgia?
Yes.
North Carolina?
Yes.
Any others?
Nevada, New Mexico.
Here we've got an operation of illegal vote trafficking. You've got thousands of mules. They're being paid to do this. What you're saying is there is more than enough money available to fund any such operation. In fact, this would be only one part of a much larger effort to control the election.
We are talking $500 million in nonprofit charitable funds flowing into efforts to register and get out the vote for Democrats. Most of the left-wing mainstream media, when they reported on the Zuckbucks going through, they made it sound like, oh, it's all going to go for masks and, plexiglass and all. And every study that's ever been done of some of the grants to the big cities found a few percent maybe going to help people that way, and the massive amounts of money going into ginning up the vote-by-mail operation and the drop box operation and those sorts of things that benefit one political party.
How confident should we be that this will be a fair election?
They're sending millions of ballots all over the country. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen.
Trump predicted. He said the Democrats are going to cheat, that they're going to use the pretext of COVID, they're going to rig the rules in their favor. Nevertheless, Republicans focus their efforts on the campaign, while Democrats focus their efforts on the process of actually running the election.
The two sides don't approach elections in the same way. The Democrats, they understand that the rules, the process by which elections are conducted is just critical.
We must now face the chilling reality.
The chilling reality that this was a rigged election. And I don't think most people are still that concerned about that fact. That these facts that you're seeing here are all true. And listen, I'm a blue-collar guy. You would think, oh, blue-collar Democrat. Why is all big money associated with Democrats? Big money people, Warren Buffett, Zuckerberg, all these guys. Because they're not for small guys. They're not for poor people. That should be a tip-off right there, that they don't care about regular Americans. We need to wake up on that. And you talk about the money that was. I heard a $500 million. $500 million. You got $500 million. You can buy pretty much whatever you need. If you need to buy ballots, you can buy ballots. They have the money, and it's a shame. Now, again, we heard earlier say, well, how do you stop this? How do you eradicate it? You got to penalize people. Again, they know all the phones that were there, the phones that were going to all these drop boxes, where they live. Show this quick clip about how this is how you would find out. And the question is, what has anyone done about it? Quick clip.
Because it cannot be curated after it is committed, because the evidence has no connection to the person who is meant to be voting. That's the problem. As soon as it gets taken out of the envelope, the identity of the voter
we're
disappears.
So the vote from John Doe is from a John Doe who is dead or a John Doe who is moved. Is that correct?
Or voted somewhere else.
Or voted so. Why is that not provable?
There's an easy way to bust it, but it's not the way you think. It's not to go find the ballots in the ballot mix. You can't do that. The way to find it is these guys have the cell phone identification of all the mules, all of them. So law enforcement has to step in at this point, and their next step.
What were you doing 7
is
times?
Is to go and interview the mules. Who paid you?
Right.
Where'd you get the money?
Will any state's law enforcement do this?
This is a big question. The mules aren't going to fess up. They know they're participating in something that is
well, you've got them on videotape. You've got 2,000 people who are committing felonies.
Right. I'd like you to.
Have you heard of any people going to jail that were part of this? Have you heard of anything? I've got nothing. And that's the problem. We've seen all of this illegal stuff going on in the Biden administration. When's someone going to go to jail? When's someone going to pay the price? That's a problem. And the problem is the criminals are running everything, and they're going to cover for the other criminals. We're running thin on time. I want to get to 2 other quick clips in regards to wrapping this up, and that is the amount of ballots that were really, in looking at this, you can think is nothing other than illegal ballots. Next clip.
Now we come to the most important question of all. Was the magnitude of vote trafficking in these key swing states enough to tip the balance in the 2020 presidential election? Let's first narrow in on just our 2,000 mules. Their average number of Dropbox visits, 38. Their average number of illegal ballots deposited per visit, 5. That's 380,000 illegal votes. But was this sufficient to put Biden in the White House? To answer that question, we must look at each key state. In Michigan, 500 mules, averaging 50 Dropbox visits and 5 illegal ballots per drop. That's 125,000 illegally trafficked votes, not quite the 154,000 vote difference between Trump and Biden. So Michigan, with its 16 electoral votes, stays in the Biden column. In Wisconsin, 100 mules, averaging 28 drop box visits and 5 illegal ballots per drop. That's 14,000 illegally trafficked votes, 6,000 votes short to give Trump the win. So using only our mules, Wisconsin's 10 electoral votes stays in the Biden camp. But now we come to Georgia. 250 mules, averaging 24 drop box visits and 5 illegal ballots per drop. That's 30,000 illegally trafficked votes, far more than the 12,000 vote difference between Trump and Biden. So Georgia, with 16 electoral votes, moves over into the Trump column. In Arizona, the numbers are roughly the same. 200 mules, averaging 20 drop box visits and 5 illegal ballots per drop. That's 20,000 illegal votes. Again, these illegal votes are substantially more than the 10,000 vote margin that gave the state's 11 electoral votes to Biden. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania alone, 1,100 mules, averaging 50 drop box visits and 5 ballots per visit. That's 275,000 illegal votes, again comfortably exceeding the 80,000 vote margin between Trump and Biden. So Pennsylvania's 20 electoral votes goes for Trump. Shockingly, even this narrow way of looking at just our 2,000 mules in these swing states gives Trump the win, with 279 electoral votes to Biden's 259. But no one thinks that our 2,000 mules were the only mules trafficking illegal votes. To widen the search, Greg and his team lowered the criterion from 10 or more to 5 or more drop boxes. This revealed a huge upsurge in the number of mules from 2,000 to 54,000. 54,000 mules. Next, they used a very conservative estimate of just 3 ballots per drop box visit. Now, when we multiply this increased number of mules times the 5 drop box visits per mule times just 3 illegal votes per drop, we find election fraud on an astonishing scale. In Wisconsin, 83,565 illegal votes were trafficked. In Georgia, 92,670. In Pennsylvania, 209,505. In Michigan, 226,590, and in Arizona, 207,435. Using this calculus, Trump would have won all the key states. And the final electoral vote, 305 to 233.
So there you go. I mean, again, they were using 10 different boxes. You had to go to 10. If you went to 9, didn't count. And they said if you went to 5, there were 54,000 people that are doing this. Maybe that's why they're not looking into it. They don't have enough jail cells for all these criminals. That's how dastardly and what a precarious situation we're in. We'll go to one last clip before we take off.
We are not a democracy. We are a nation run by a criminal cartel masquerading as a democracy. Never in U.S. history has a presidential election been as thoroughly corrupted by coordinated fraud across multiple states as we now know took place in 2020. Today, totalitarian regimes camouflage their fake elections with appearance of democracy, but they're not real democracies. We don't want to join them. Our elections must represent the will of American citizens. We who believe in constitutional democracy must be diligent. If we give up, they win. In fact, if enough of us give up, they won't need to cheat anymore. Don't stay home. Get involved. Get out and vote. Do what is necessary to save this great country. The America we love needs us now more than ever.
There you have it. There's much more information there in the movie 2,000 Mules made by Dinesh D'Souza. I recommend you find it, watch it from the start to finish. If you can't see that we're in a dangerous place in regards to our voice counting, I don't know what else to say. That's why when I look at this, I feel like we're really in the real Matrix. We'll be back next week with more information.
Want to make your love life sizzle like Phoenix summer? Summit Male Medical guarantees to help you with ED or premature issues, or we won't charge you. We've helped tens of thousands of patients here in the Valley since 2008. Please compare our most experienced medical staff and low-price treatments to anybody. If you've talked to the rest, it's time to come to the best. Put the sizzle back in your love life. 480-398-1000 or go to summitmalemedical.com. Summit Medical, love for life.